Luke Fickell's alma mater is coming to Camp Randall. Can the Badgers beat the Buckeyes? We'll let you know. Locked On Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I am Craig Sheeman. Thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. And of course, we're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Well, the Buckeyes invade the Badgers. We'll discuss that game at length, plus the rest of the Big Ten slate this weekend, some Mel Tucker news, some Cade McNamara news, and you'll want to hang around for our Pigskin Picks at the end of the podcast. I am on fire. Check it out. Be sure to subscribe down low and follow Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcast. That way you'll get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. We spent a lot of real estate on this podcast this week talking about Jim Harbaugh and the Michigan Wolverines, and deservedly so. It's a big story. And if anything else breaks on Spygate, we'll be the first to jump in and let you know. But since the Wolverines are on a bye week, let's take a closer look at this week's Big Ten schedule, which only includes 5 games. It's a light schedule, a lot of teams on bye. The most interesting game of the bunch has the Ohio State Buckeyes visiting Camp Randall to take on the Wisconsin Badgers. And this one will be under the lights at 7:30 on NBC. And I actually think this could be a battle for a minute, for a little while. I'll tell you why, but the Buckeyes should prevail in this game and stay on track for their huge clash at the end of the season against Michigan. But first, let's start with the Badgers and what we think about them. Coach Luke Fickell, this is his first year here with the Badgers. And I think he's learned a lot about the culture and taken his time to kind of embrace people in this area. And he's added a few things of his own along the way. But make no mistake about it, this game, this Saturday, is Fickell's Super Bowl. It's very, very important to him, more so than most other games. And I'll tell you why. First of all, as you may or may not know, he was born in Columbus, Ohio. From 1993 to 1996, he was a nose guard at Ohio State under John Cooper. Nose guard? Really? Look at him. He's kind of tall and thin. I don't see nose guard, but that's what he was. That was the deal. He then got his first graduate assistant coaching job at Ohio State in 1999. And after a brief stint as a defensive line coach at Akron, he returned to Ohio State under Jim Tressel as the special teams coach. Then he was a linebackers coach. Then he was a co-defensive coordinator. Then he was the interim head coach when Tressel left in 2011. And from 2012 to 2016, he continued as co-defensive coordinator under Urban Meyer. So he's climbing the ladder there at Ohio State. But then the year before Meyer left, Fickell left. In 2017, he was named the head coach at Cincinnati and did a great job there. In fact, put that team on the map with all the big boys of college football. And in fact, they got him noticed everywhere else. But up till this point, look, Luke Fickell is as Ohio gets. But he decided he wanted to take another job and went to Wisconsin when that job opened up. Now he's in the land of brats and beer. Get used to it. Now, he got a lot of people excited early on in the beginning when he said he was going to change Badger football, along with offensive coordinator Phil Longo. They were going to come in there and turn Wisconsin football into a passing air raid. Some call it the passing air raid attack. Some call it the dairy raid. There are many names for it. Others whispered, hey, that's not how we do things here in Madison, Wisconsin, right? At Wisconsin, we put our powerful running backs behind huge, beefy offensive linemen, and we run over you all day long. That's Wisconsin football. Well, Fickell brought in a transfer quarterback, Tanner Mordecai, who had been at Oklahoma and at SMU. And during his time at Oklahoma, he kept losing starting jobs. Check out the list. He lost a starting job to Kyler Murray. He lost a job to Jalen Hurts. Then he lost a job to Spencer Rattler. It's two of those guys in the NFL. and he just wasn't ever going to see the field playing there at Oklahoma. So he decided he was going to take his talents to SMU and transfer over there. And there, in his first game ever, threw for a school record 7 touchdown passes. Remarkable. The following year, he reset the school record in a game versus Houston where he threw 9 touchdown passes in one game, 7.5. Incredible. In 2 years at SMU, Mordecai threw 72 touchdowns with just 22 interceptions. So Wisconsin dairy raid, here we come, right? Wisconsin's looking for a quarterback that can chuck the ball and throw and put up humongous numbers like this. Boom. He transfers to Madison when Luke Fickell takes over. But as you know, if you're a Badger fan, in his first 6 games at Wisconsin, he threw just 3 touchdowns with 3 interceptions. It was not that remarkable. And then he broke his hand against Iowa, so he's done. However, now freshman quarterback Braden Locke is in there. And he takes over, and he shows a little bit of promise here. He led them to a come-from-behind win at Illinois last week. In fact, he threw the game-winning touchdown with 27 seconds to go. So they may have found in fact, he was freshman of the week in the Big Ten. Wisconsin may have found their air raid quarterback, at least of the future, maybe next year. Who knows up till now what they'll do for the rest of the year. But there has been no air raid to this point at Wisconsin. So what happened? Probably was just the wrong quarterback at the wrong time at the wrong place. Perhaps the defenses in the Big Ten are just a wee bit tougher than what SMU was facing with Tanner Mordecai. Maybe. I think that's definitely true. Luke Fickell is another explanation. He just inherited a team that was built to run. They were really good at running the ball. And Mordecai seemed more like a game manager who could run. Actually scored a couple touchdowns on the ground. But the Badgers also had 2 dynamite running backs, Braylon Allen and Ches Malusi. Fantastic running backs. Now, we all know that Malusi sadly was injured a few games into the season with a pretty bad injury. But Allen has been nothing short of great. He really has been. Plus, have you seen Wisconsin's tackles? So you got Jack Nelson. He's 6'7", 311 pounds. That's the left tackle. The right tackle is Riley Mullman. He's 6'8", 320 pounds. I mean, these are basketball players. You've got over 13 feet of tackle on either side of the line and a great running back. Run the ball, baby. Just run the ball. That's what you need to do, and that's what Wisconsin largely has been doing. And on defense, the Badgers have an emerging star in cornerback Ricardo Hallman. He's just a sophomore out of Miami, leads the team with 4 interceptions and got 4 pass breakups as well. Expect him to be assigned exclusively to Marvin Harrison Jr., the star wide receiver for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Buckeyes with Kyle McCord, he's getting better each and every week, leaps and bounds, actually. And the chemistry between he and Harrison is evident. Of course, if you don't know, and many of you do, they played together in high school as well. So they are used to each other. And the bad news for the Buckeyes, though, they've been a little shorthanded. Past couple of weeks, they've had their top 3 running backs dinged up. They've had their second best receiver in Emeka Egbuka. He's been out a couple of games. And their best cover corner has been dinged up as well. So hopefully for Buckeyes fans, that a few of these players will be working their way back into the lineup real soon. But let's not forget, the Buckeyes are also coming off that big game last week against Penn State. A lot of energy went into that. They won the game. They're going to move on. Penn State was coming for them, but they were able to win the game. I think that took a little out of them. So I'm going to be curious to see what kind of energy Ohio State has when they come into Camp Randall. That place will be rocking. And at the end of the day, though, I think the Buckeyes, no matter what the atmosphere, I mean, they've been there, done this before. Think about their game at Notre Dame, at South Bend, at nighttime, what a crowd that was. It'll be more of the same. They're used to it. They're experienced. They're deep. And no matter how they start, slow or on fire, they're going to win this football game. They're going to win this football game. But if the Badgers pull it off, the Badgers will then become bowl eligible. So they're 1 win away there. Remember, this game, it's nighttime. All right. At halftime. Your halftime show is me. At halftime, we are going to go live on this channel on YouTube, on our Locked On Big Ten channel. So check us out. Locked On Big Ten will be live halftime. That'll be around 9 o'clock Eastern, okay? And we'll go live here on Locked On Big Ten. and we hope to see you all there. In the meantime, all your comments are welcome. Hit us up at Twitter at TalkBig10, number 10. Our website, talkbig10.com with the number 10. Comments here on YouTube are always welcome as well. There are 4 other games going on in the Big Ten this weekend. We will take a look at those. Some news out of Michigan State and Iowa as well. It's all coming up in a minute right here on Locked On Big Ten. Athletic Brewing Company has completely changed the non-alcoholic beer game. In fact, their award-winning brews beat out full-strength beers in global taste competitions all over the world. In fact, I have some right here, as a matter of fact. Right there. They sent me some, and I love it. Absolutely love it. You should too. You should try this. Athletic Brewing Company. They brew like over 50 styles of craft, non-alcoholic beer. Talking IPAs, Goldens, sours. They have it all. They're experimenting with new flavors all the time. You can experiment too and just drink different ones. They're fit for all times. Whether you're watching a game with the guys, watching your kids' game, you can be drinking this. It's non-alcoholic. Working out, you could drink it. No hangovers, no alcohol. You're good to go. You can find Athletic Brewing Company's non-alcoholic brews at a store near you, or buy online at athleticbrewing.com. That's athleticbrewing.com. Athletic Brewing Company, fit for all times. And if you're going to some games with a group of people, are you ever the one that has to get the tickets? It's stressful. It's stressful for me anyway. Maybe for you too. But I have a solution. You shouldn't have to worry about that, buying tickets to the next big event. Go to Game Time. It's a great app. It's fast and easy way to buy tickets to everything. Last minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals, everything that you could think of. Plus, here's what I like. Right from your phone app, you can see the view from the seat of the ticket you're about to buy. Boom. Good to go. Make sure there's no obstructions or anything like that. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, even an hour after it starts. I used to live in LA. I know what it's like to roll in late. It is the place to find last-minute seats, find exclusive flash deals, and sponsored deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater. I told you, everything. And with a Game Time guarantee, that means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Here's what you need to do. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, and the redeem code is LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. So in addition to what's going on at Camp Randall Saturday night under the lights, we have other games to discuss. So let's check it out here. We've got Indiana at Penn State at 12 o'clock on CBS. We all know that Penn State coming off what I think is a draining day against Ohio State last week. Disappointed they didn't get the win, I'm sure. And maybe they really haven't closed the gap between the Big Two in the Big Ten. They still have a date with Michigan in the future, but I wouldn't be surprised if that hangover caused just a little bit of a slow start, like a slow roll in the first quarter. But when they shake that off, the Nittany Lions are 32-point favorites against the Hoosiers. They're getting pretty close to that. The Hoosiers are still looking for their first conference win. Also, keep in mind, despite all the criticism of Penn State's offense, their defense is still among the best in the country. Last week, they held Ohio State to just 79 yards rushing. That's 6 straight opponents that Penn State has held under 100 yards. So the defense is still there. A lot of people, again, complaining about the offense, but the defense is intact. Offensively, the Hoosiers will continue with Brendan Sorsby at quarterback. Tom Allen has been bouncing back and forth between him and Taven Jackson this season. Other game at 12 o'clock on the Big Ten Network, Maryland is at Northwestern. Now, speaking of teams that are good but not quite up at that upper level, Maryland's a good football team. Don't get me wrong. They are good. They started out 5-0. Then they lost 2 in a row. They lost to Ohio State, and then they lost a heartbreaker against Illinois. Then they went on a bye week. And they're looking to come back, still get that 6th win and become bowl eligible. They're 1 win away. The Terps will return to action without offensive coordinator Kevin Sumlin. He was arrested this week on DUI Saturday morning in Florida. So that's the latest there. Michigan State is at Minnesota. That is at 3:30 on the Big Ten Network. The Spartans are looking for their first conference win, and the Gophers are coming off that crazy win at Iowa. They didn't even score a touchdown and they won. The 12-10 game, that's a typical Iowa, Minnesota, man, defense. The number for this game is 40. Take the under. Take the under. They're not going to hit 40 on a combined score. So, personal opinion. A little preview to what's coming up with our pigskin picks. The Spartans are trying to just find anything that works right now. Katon Hauser has taken over for Noah Kim at quarterback. Receivers are dropping balls. 5 players have now hit the transfer portal since Mel Tucker was fired in September. It's kind of a mess. It's kind of a big mess there. By the way, latest on Mel Tucker. You know, he had that hearing after he was fired. It was scheduled for their bye week. Well, a hearing officer there at Michigan State has announced that they have determined that Mel Tucker violated the school sexual misconduct policy during his interactions with Brenda Tracy, which led to his firing, of course, back in September. Tucker said that he believed that he and Tracy were in a consensual relationship. The case is not closed now because Tucker can appeal. Believe me, he will appeal, and then it's going to be game on, probably for those lawsuits to see if he gets paid the remaining $79 million on that contract or not. Also, Purdue is at Nebraska, 3:30 FS1. Matt Rule's Huskers, I don't know if you've noticed, they've won 4 of the last 5 games, starting to put it together a little bit. Boilermakers are coming off a bye after 2 straight losses. They quite haven't put it together yet, the Boilermakers. The Huskers, though, coming off an 8-sack performance versus Northwestern, and their defense is now ranked 20th in the country and 4th overall in rush defense. Hey, welcome to the Big Ten. That's what everybody does. Offensively, the Huskers are without 3 starting offensive linemen. And Purdue coach Ryan Walters, you remember he used to play for? He used to play for Colorado. Colorado, Nebraska, bit of a rivalry. Says he still hates them. Still hates them. Hates those colors. Actually, he said, I hate all red uniforms. Shot at Indiana, of course. But anyway, that's the latest game on the schedule as well. And news out of Iowa. Hawkeyes quarterback Cade McNamara, the transfer from Michigan, wasn't really playing that great, then tore his ACL, and that was in the Michigan State game. He says he's coming back. He says there's still much to accomplish in the black and gold. Look forward to the 2024 season. Kirk Ferentz hinted as much last week as well that he will be welcome back. In the meantime, Deacon Hill is their starting quarterback in his place. So that's the latest going on at Iowa. And if you missed yesterday's podcast, well, first of all, go back and check it out. If you missed yesterday's podcast, lots of ways to do it here on YouTube. I would recommend going back to our website, Talk Big Ten. That's the number 10, talkbig10.com. That's where we stash everything. We do an episode. That's where it goes. You can find them all. There's a lot of stuff for you to find on that website. I encourage you to check it out. Talkbig10.com. Well, anyway, yesterday's episode, we gave you some details on some big-time exhibition Big Ten hoops going on this weekend. Tennessee is at Michigan State, and number 1 Kansas is at Illinois. And these games were not even part of the original ticket package, so a lot of people might not know about it. But both games are Sunday. Both games will raise some money for wildfire relief in Maui. Of course, all schools know the importance of the Maui Classic. That kind of helps kick off the basketball season each and every year, and they'd like to give back to the community. In fact, Michigan State is going to play in the Maui Classic later on. Both these games on Sunday air on the Big Ten Network. So maybe if you're watching some NFL football, I don't know, switch over, watch some Big Ten hoops, get an idea what's going on. I would also like to thank everybody who always checks out Locked On Big Ten, personally, especially you everydayers out there. Thank you. Always appreciate that. Meanwhile, I'm going to ask you and everybody else, if you haven't, subscribe. The little black button down below really helps us out. Click it, and we're good to go. You can subscribe on YouTube or however else you consume this podcast. You could share, like, follow, everything with Locked On Big Ten. It would really help us out. And another programming note, on Fridays, all season long, we've been doing this. On this channel, Locked On Big Ten, live at 11 o'clock Eastern Friday, 11 to noon, we've got our Locked On College Football Kickoff Live show. I participate in. I'm not the host, but it airs on this channel. But I do participate with a preview for what's coming up on the Big Ten. Invite you to check that out. And if you miss it live, it's on there taped all day long. It's go back and watch last week's. They're there. They're all there lined up. So check those out as well. And again, speaking of live, us, Locked On Big Ten, going live at halftime of the Wisconsin-Ohio State game on this Locked On Big Ten YouTube channel. So anyway, all that to discuss, but we've got Pigskin Picks. That is coming up next in 1 minute right here on Locked On Big Ten. Speaking of picks, I want to tell you about Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform in North America. It is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. And it's just you against the numbers. It's really simple. Instead of battling thousands of other players or pros, you pick more than or less than on a 2 to 6 player stat projection and watch your winnings roll in. Right now, let me break it down to you how it works. For example, I'll just pick a game. You don't have to pick players from the same game, but for simplicity's sake, I will. Monday Night Football, Raiders and Lions, right? Take somebody like Josh Jacobs and say more than 60 yards on the night and Jared Goff less than 2 touchdowns. Pair them together. They hit, boom, you win. That's awesome. It's a lot of fun. Check it out. Prize Picks. You can impress your friends with your knowledge, and even more so, you can impress your friends with your winnings. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code LOCKEDONCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code LOCKEDONCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. All right, so here we go, heading into the weekend. Let's see what kind of action we have here. Time for our Pigskin Picks. We get our lines from our friends at FanDuel. And I will tell you, last week I went 4-2. Again, if you're new to us, I just go money line, straight up winners and losers to keep this segment simple. I will give you my advice on over-unders and point spreads. You can do whatever you want, particularly if you go to FanDuel. And doing that, winners and losers, I'm 4-2 last week, 61-12 on the season. I'm on fire. So yeah, pretty good. Let me get that off the big screen. There we go. All right, let's take a look at what we have on the board with the Big Ten here this weekend. All right, we'll start it off. Indiana and Penn State. Penn State is a 31.5-point favorite. The over-under on this game is 46. Well, first of all, Penn State's going to win this football game. It's going to be nip and tuck as whether they get to like 32 points on this, the 32-point lead. Only because I think they're going to start out a little slow. Indiana's defense is not horrible, and I think Penn State is going to be a little hungover from their disappointing loss at Ohio State last week. So I think a slow start. Maybe they crawl to the number. It's going to be close. Maybe a 28-point win. I do think this game hits the over. Well, let me think about that for real quick. No, I'm changing my mind live right here. Take the under. I don't think Indiana's going to score that much, but yeah, just under. I can see this being about a 40-point total, somewhere around there. Maryland at Northwestern. Maryland a 14-point favorite coming off the bye. Maryland will win this game. I don't know that they'll cover the 14. I think Northwestern's better than people think. Got 3 wins already. Here I am doing this. I had these notes. I have everything prepared. I'm changing on the fly. You know, Maryland covers. Maryland wins by a couple touchdowns. All right, so there. And take the over 48.5. Michigan State at Minnesota. Michigan State is a train wreck. Minnesota's defense is tight. Michigan State's not going to score in this game. The over-under is at 40. Take the under. Again, but Minnesota will win this game. 7.5. That hook is interesting. I think Minnesota does not cover the 7.5, but they do win. Take the under on 40. Remember, they won a game without a touchdown last weekend, 12-10 against Iowa. Purdue is at Nebraska. Nebraska is a 2.5-point favorite here. I think Nebraska wins. I think the cover at home, and I will take the over 39. Penn State, Purdue's defense gives up a lot of points. If Nebraska gets it rolling on the ground, they can absolutely win and put up some points. There it is on screen. And finally, the Ohio State-Wisconsin game. Ohio State is a 14.5-point favorite, and I think the graphic here is wrong. So, yeah, it is. So, Ohio State is the 14.5-point favorite, the over-under 45. So, Ohio State wins. I think Ohio State covers. Take the over the 45. All right. So there you have it. We are ready. That's the Pigskin Picks for the weekend. Very excited about that. Again, many ways for you to interact with us here on Twitter at TalkBig10 10. Also the website. You see the crawl on the bottom with the number 10, talkbig10.com. You can catch everything we've ever done. Go back and watch some other podcasts that we've done. And you can also hit me with comments here on YouTube as well. Be sure to subscribe, little black button down below before you leave us, and follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app, and you'll get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Don't forget Saturday, going live, Saturday Night Live, us right here, Saturday, halftime of the Wisconsin-Ohio State game. Going to be around 9 o'clock Eastern. That's a 7:30 kickoff. So we'll be going live here on YouTube on our Locked On Big Ten channel. Now I invite you to check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast for the latest on everything else going on in sports. And in the meantime, have yourself a great day. Can't wait till we meet again. I'm Craig Sheeman for Locked On Big Ten.